Well, let's begin our lecture on sound. So you might say, why is sound so important? We typically give importance to the image, to the video, but sound is equally as important because good video doesn't matter if you don't have good audio. You can shoot with the best 4K cameras, the best cinematographer, but if your audio is awful, guess what? That project isn't going to be good. That movie is not going to seem as great as it could have been. So make sure you think about sound as well as the image. Equal importance on both. So let's talk about the different types of sound. You have production sound. That is the sound that is recorded with your video. So when you go out and shoot, whatever sound is on the camera microphone, that is considered production sound. Then we have background sound. Background sound is an ongoing sound, often called room tone or ambient. This is used to fill in gaps in production tracks. So if you're shooting a scene that takes place outside at a cemetery in the middle of the day, you might want to have like a bird track, just a light chirping birds going throughout the entire scene in the background. This gives continuity to the scene, and it also can mask any problems in sound that you have. An air conditioner is a great background sound or ambient to use in a room. Say you're in a hotel room scene and there's you see this air conditioner wall unit. Those kind of air conditioners make a specific kind of sound. So you could have a low hum or low buzz kind of going throughout your scene, and that would be considered ambient. Okay, another type of sound would be sound effects. Now, of course, you can always go to your sound effects library and look up a specific sound, or you can Foley your own sound effects. So you might say, what in the world is Foley? What do you mean by that? Well, Foley is the re-recording of sound effects in a controlled environment. We are going to watch a video of a Foley artist in action here in a second, but you can't always find the perfect sound effect for your movie. Sometimes you just have to recreate them. Sometimes they just sound too much like a sound effects library. It doesn't sound realistic to your scene. It's hard to find footsteps that are going to match your exact person in your scene walking on leaves. So you might want to Foley those yourself. So let's take a look at a Hollywood Foley artist in action.
Hi, I'm Gary Hecker, supervising Foley artist here at Sony Pictures Entertainment in Culver City, California. I've been at the craft of Foley for 30 years now. I started at a very young age, designing this craft, figuring out the craft, learning about sound. Welcome to Sony Pictures Studios. We're gonna go inside the Foley stage here. Stage A, this is like the top Foley stage in the world. This is my crew here at Sony. This is Rick Owen, my right-hand man out on the stage, and this is Randy Singer, right-hand man behind the glass. This is our new console we just got rolling here. It's an Avid S6 M40 console. It's state-of-the-art. One of the first films that I had the pleasure of working on that was really lit me up in my career was Empire Strikes Back. That really motivated me, and I decided at a young age then that I wanted to do this for my career. Since then, I've worked on over 300 films. 3 Spider-Man films here, 1, 2, and 3. There's another one coming out we're going to be doing. I'm the director, Quentin Tarantino, Hateful Eight, from Zack Snyder, film 300. War of the Worlds, this is from Steven Spielberg. This was nominated for an Oscar for Best Sound. Peter Weir's Master and Commander, with Russell Crowe. This actually won the Oscar for Best Sound, so we provided the Foley for that on the stage here. And then, of course, the Hunger Games just this year. Me and my crew designed the Foley on Fast 7, Insurgent, and there's a big film coming out that was a video game they've nominated to a feature theatrical release, World of Warcraft. And currently, we're working on the big Warner Brothers film, Batman versus Superman. We also do video games and everything that you can imagine. That's stage A. We're topping the swish with the metal jing. these guys are going to have signature sound so that when the players are playing the game, will associate that sound with those characters. They're actually used in Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. A little thing that I use to create the webs. Sounds make this experience more dynamic and more interesting and more exciting, and that's why people come to Sony Stage A.
All right, pretty exciting, huh? To see a Foley artist in action. All right, another type of sound would be a voiceover narration. Often we call these VOs. Documentaries will have this voiceover track, you know, that voice of authority speaking about a subject, and then we see images relating to what they're talking about. Narrative movies also use VOs. The Christmas Story, you know, with Ralphie, you know, we hear his voiceover at the beginning of the movie and periodically through the movie, just kind of his ramblings and thoughts about what's happening in the story. Also, we have dialogue replacement. Now, this is sort of kind of like Foley in that you go in a TV studio, a controlled environment, you watch the movie up on the screen, and the actor will then speak into a good microphone and say the exact same lines that they're saying in the movie. So when the editor goes in to edit all the sound, they have this crisp, clean sound of dialogue, which is much better than your production sound. But sometimes they don't have a choice. They have to do this. If you're shooting out on location and you're in an environment that you just can't control, this is a viable option. Sometimes even when you think you're in a location that's going to be perfect for filming, it's going to be quiet. Well, guess what? There's airplanes that fly by. Somebody decides to mow their lawn. Somebody, you know, all sorts of crazy things happen. Okay, then we have another type of sound we like to use a lot, and that is music. Music can be used to enhance the mood or continuity. So let's listen to a piece of music to kind of see what kind of mood it sets.
Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
Okay, obviously we got two different types of music. If you used these choices in your movie, you're going to have a completely different tone, right? Somebody who has a scene that's like a horror scene, if they use comedy music, it sets a different tone than somebody who's going to use horror music. So music is definitely something you want to think about. You don't want to overuse it, but definitely use it to enhance. Okay, how do we record sound? Well, the obvious, we use a microphone. And you might say, well, what exactly is a microphone? Well, it is a device that translates the original noise created by a pattern of moving air into an electrical signal. Sound is generated differently in the different types of microphones. So we're going to talk about dynamic and condenser. These two microphones are built differently, so they generate sound differently. Okay, so your dynamic microphone. Let's talk about that one first. This one doesn't require a power source. Dynamics have an internal coil that vibrates as the sound enters. It is a rugged microphone. It is great for outdoor use. And a dynamic microphone can handle high volumes without distortion. So a rock concert, good example where you might want to use a dynamic microphone because you don't know what's going to happen. And the volumes are probably going to get pretty high. If you're doing man on the street interviews in, say, New York City, downtown, you got trucks whizzing past you. You don't know what's going to happen. So this might be a good type of microphone to use in that situation. Okay, here's a picture of a dynamic microphone. This is a handheld dynamic. This is probably what you think of. When you think of a microphone, this is the image that comes to mind. Some of you may, as a child, have one of the little Fisher-Price toys where you had that plastic microphone and speaker system. That was a dynamic microphone. It's rugged, good for rugged use, even children. Okay, then the condenser. The condenser requires an internal power source, usually AA batteries. This is a typically higher quality microphone and often it costs more. This microphone, however, will have distortion in high volume situations. So definitely don't want to use this for your rock concert. But it is great for a controlled situation, like a broadcast studio, where you know you're not going to have anything out of the ordinary happen. Here's an image of a condenser microphone. Now, not all condenser microphones are going to look like this, but this is one type. Okay, so you're doing audio, you're trying to figure out what would be the best microphone to use. Well, you kind of figure out what is my situation, and also you need to know what pickup pattern do you want, because microphones have different pickup patterns, how they pick up the audio. So we're going to talk about three of them. The first one is omnidirectional. Omni meaning all around. So it picks up sound in all directions equally. It has difficult time picking up a distant sound. So if you have a cow out in the pasture and you're on the gravel road trying to pick up that sound of that cow, probably not a good microphone to use. It's too far away. And it is not good at limiting unwanted background noise because it's picking up sound everywhere, right? It's picking up sound behind the microphone as well. So here is your little microphone, the yellow thing here. Purple area is the pickup pattern. So it picks up sound all around the microphone, omnidirectional. The second kind we want to talk about is cardioid. I hope that rings a bell. Think of cardiovascular, cardiologist, heart doctor relates to the heart. So this pickup pattern picks up sound in a heart-shaped pattern. It is mostly recorded in front of the microphone. So here is your shape. Notice how it's a heart shape, and most of your sound is going to be picked up here in front of the microphone. Third type we want to talk about is directional pickup pattern, highly concentrated toward the front. Excellent for focusing on certain sounds, like maybe that cow out in the pasture. Useful for picking up distant sounds. So here's your microphone. There's your pickup pattern. So it's going to pick up sound right here. It's not going to pick up sound over here as well. And if you noticed in our Foley video we just watched, he was using a condenser directional microphone. Other type of microphone types are shotgun or boom mic, a lavalier, lav for short, handheld, wireless. We have USBs. There's a lot of different types, but these are probably the most common ones. So let's talk about the boom mic, often called a shotgun. This is a directional condenser microphone used when you don't want the microphone seen on the camera. So in the movies where you don't want to see the microphone. The microphone is attached to a boom pole or pistol grip. That's where we get the name boom mic, boom pole. And you aim the microphone directly at the sound because it's directional. Windscreen is necessary when you go outside. Now, a windscreen is what protects the microphone from wind hits. You know, if you ever listen to some sound and you have these horrible, like, kind of wind sounds, and your sound is unusable, probably you didn't use a windscreen. We don't necessarily hear wind all the time, but your microphone will. So when you go outside, use a windscreen. So here we go with some pictures of some boom operators. And you notice these boom operators are in different situations. This boom operator is in the middle of a movie. He's shooting a scene here. This boom operator, it looks like maybe some kind of corporate video or a documentary situation. So how do you use the boom pole? Well, you need a long cable because you may be moving and you want to make sure you have enough cable to move with your actors or with whoever is on camera. Watch for boom shadows. This is probably the #1 thing that happens that we need to be careful of, because notice this boom operator, he's standing in front of a light. Therefore, he will create shadows. So you need to be careful of that. You need to get a frame line from your camera person. You need to know what the shot is, because you need to know how high or low can this microphone get. You want to get the microphone as close as possible without being in the shot. Sometimes you're standing there for a long time and it gets tiring. So spread the hands out to relieve the strain. And use headphones to hear the audio. It is so important that you hear what's coming into the microphone, because you will not necessarily hear what's coming in the mic. Example, I shot a movie once and I was trusting my sound person, as you should. And I got all my footage back and it had this just horrible electrical buzz through the entire movie, through all the dailies, all the shots that we shot. And I was forced to use it and it was awful. There obviously was something wrong with the microphone, but they did not wear their headphones or they just weren't paying attention. So headphones, important, frame line, and boom shadows. 3 things you got to look out for. Lavalier. This is typically omnidirectional condenser microphone, primarily used for voice pickup. We fasten it to the clothes using a little clip. And you want to hide the cord, but don't hide the microphone. This can be used outdoors with a windscreen. So here's an example. This is the power supply. This is your cord. This little thing here, that is the microphone, and there's your clip. So you notice on our broadcaster over here, he's wearing a lavalier microphone. Most broadcasters are going to be wearing lavaliers. The microphone is on the outside of the jacket. We hide the cord, but we don't hide the mic. Microphone use. You test the microphone by speaking into it in your normal speaking voice. Don't blow into the mic. Don't thump the microphone. In the movies, they do this for visual effect, but don't do it in real life. Also, remember a power supply for your condenser microphone has an on and off switch. So that means if it's not working, make sure you turn it on. At the end of the day, turn it off to save your batteries. When in doubt, if your audio is not showing up on your meters and something seems wrong, typically it's not plugged in, it's not turned on, the battery's not in, or the battery's dead. Usually if you kind of go through your list or your camera is not selected properly, you will be able to figure out why you don't have audio. Okay, so how do we monitor our audio? We use a VU meter. VU meter is used to monitor sound output levels. VU stands for volume units, VU. This is how we maintain proper levels. If you have an excessive input, you have loud sound, that is going to result in distortion or clipping, and we don't want that. That's not something we want, so we want to avoid that. On the left here, you will see a analog, kind of old-fashioned VU meter, where you actually have the numbers. You have black and you have red. Red is typically bad. That means you're in this distortion clipping area and you don't want that. The one on the right is also a VU meter, but it's digital. So red again, bad, yellow, good. So that's it for our sound lecture. Hope you enjoyed.